Hey folks, how are you all? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In case you're here for the first time, I'm Praveen Ramesh. I'm a startup marketer based out of India, and each week on this channel we review one non-fiction book in under 10 minutes. So last week we reviewed 22 Immutable Laws of Marketing. I'll add a link to this probably here or here somewhere, so just make sure you find them. And this week we're going to be reviewing a marketing or a copywriting classic, Cashvertising by Eric Whitman. It's a marketing classic and a book that I recommend everyone who's starting out their marketing or copywriting careers to read. So let's get started. Okay, so like the last time, we are going to be reviewing Cashvertising in a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 format, right? So what is 5, 4, 3, 2, 1? 5 lessons that I learned or I think are the biggest things that this book taught me, 4 of my favorite quotes, 3 of my favorite chapters, 2 reasons on why you should be picking this book up, and 1 big idea from this book. Okay, so what is the lesson number 1? Advertising is sales at scale, right? So a lot of times as marketers, or at least me when I started out marketing, I thought of advertising as, writing fancy lines or shooting fancy videos and stuff like that. But later as you progress in your marketing career, you would realize that the goal of advert or any marketing material that you put out is to ensure that your prospects or your target audience know your product, and 2, hoping that it ultimately ends in sales, right? So treat your advertising or advertisements or any sales collateral like how you treat your salesperson, right? The only difference is salesperson sells to your prospects one-on-one. Advertising is supposed to be done on one-to-many basis, right? So there are different stages of sales that salesperson would handle, and same with adverts, right? So there are different stages of advertisements, and it needs to convey that intention to your potential prospect. So that was my lesson 1 from this book. So what is lesson number 2? It's always about benefits and values. As marketers, including me, when I started out, I always used to write, we have the most amazing solution in the world, or we have the most awesome, let's say, service that we offer. But you know what? It really doesn't mean anything to the prospect, right? So think of values and benefits like this, right? There is a problem, there is a solution. The prospect is using you, you are the mediator for them to solve their problem and reach a solution. So always tell your prospects on what value you deliver and what benefit you offer, right? So I kind of condensed this into a framework called the so what framework. Hey, I have the world's best camera. So what? You can capture your memories and that can stand the test of time. Something along those lines, right? So always think, what benefit am I adding to my end user, and always communicate that. Never talk about you. It's always about the end user. Third one, making your copy or all your sales collaterals as authentic as possible. Again, a quick browse through all the websites. I wish I had the editing, prowess or capabilities to show you a bunch of websites that use very jargonish or website terms, as I used to call them, like supercharge, efficiency, and transform and the likes, all in one. Seems to be a new word in the space that I operate in, which is B2B. So never use those terms, right? So all through this book, Eric keeps talking about using words, using testimonials, using photos of real people, words that you would use every day in conversations to convey your message. So do away with all the landing page jargons, as I would call them, and use real photos, real testimonials, and use real words to convey what you do. Fourth one, and my favorite one, to be honest, specificity sells, right? Being specific is really helpful. Okay, instead of talking about it, imagine there are 5 pizza stores in your neighborhood, right? A, B, C, D, E. And let's say you pick up your phone randomly and ask them, hey, what is different about what you do? There are 5 other stores or 4 other stores that sell the same pizza as you. So what is different? So someone says, hey, we deliver in 20 minutes. Someone else says, sir, we do this, we do that, but those all mean nothing. Let's say there is one more pizza store that says they talk about the organic vegetables on where they source it from. Probably it's 12 hours from farm to plate. They talk about the cheese that they source. They talk about how hygienic or how hygienic their place is, how often it is disinfected. Or they talk about how they source their herbs and spices that they put on their pizza. who are you likely to buy your pizza from? There are 9 out of 10 chances that you'll buy from that vendor who talks about the specifics of what they do. So there's this lesson for you. If you're in a crowded market, always speak about what makes you different and make it as specific as possible. And the fifth and the final lesson is my favorite one, is advertising is as much about appealing to human emotions as much as it is about copywriting, right? So this comes towards the start of the book, but I wanted to keep it to the end because I wanted to kind of finish my lessons portion with a punch, right? So no matter what ad you do or what marketing campaign you do, if it doesn't appeal to one of these, which is survival, enjoyment of life, enjoyment of food and beverages, freedom from fear of pain, comfortable living conditions, keep winning attitude, care and protection of loved ones, and social approval. If your ad or any marketing campaign doesn't appeal to one of these, it's never going to fly, because at the end of the day, humans are social animals. They care about themselves more than others. So whatever you do needs to appeal to one of these. So those are my favorite 5 lessons. What are those? Advertising is sales at scale. It's always about benefits and values and not about you. Making your copy and website or sales collateral as authentic as possible really helps. Being specific always helps you sell more or stand out in the market. And the fifth and final one, advertising should appeal to human emotions and nothing else. So those are my favorite lessons. So what are my favorite 4 quotes? I'm just gonna run through this quickly because they are very closely aligned to the 5 lessons that we spoke. Advertising is a salesperson in print, a salesperson broadcasted to the masses. Second favorite quote, loading your advertising with benefits is key to all successful marketing. I think we spoke about this again. Third one, appealing to people's vanity and ego is most successful when it hones on characteristics that society considers to be desirable, right? For example, it could be physical attractiveness, intelligence, economic success, and the likes. So think of all the luxury brands, the cologne brands or car brands, right? They show you, a very idealistic person driving their car, idealistic person using their perfume. It's because what they're trying to do there is ego morphing, as the author calls it. So always ensure that you ego morph if you're selling something very aspirational. And the fourth and the final favorite quote, people will accept authority of any official looking person who endorses an advertised product. So authority is the ultimate expertise or ultimate selling point, right? This is what we call in the modern day as an influencer marketing, right? So authority will help you reach more audiences as long as you choose the right authority to advertise your product or endorse your product. So what are the 3 favorite chapters of this book? So the book is broadly just 4 different chapters and it has multiple principles that are listed down. So the first of my favorite chapters or principles is the bandwagon effect. I think it's the 4th point in chapter number 2. So give your audience for them to something to jump on, right? So what does that mean? So I think we covered the example of Hey versus other email providers, Drift versus others. So once you take a stance, you're giving people a reason to stick with you, and then kind of reinforce that with testimonials and quotes from real people, pasting real photos and stuff like that. So bandwagon effect, 1. Second one, repetition and redundancy. I think it's the 14th point in again chapter number 2. Keep telling your message or keep reiterating your values and benefits until you get bored of it, because only when you start getting bored, your audience will start taking a notice. So the more times you see an ad, you see a message, the longer it's going to stick with your prospect, right? So doing it 100 times is far better than doing it once and then forgetting forever. And my third favorite chapter is crush your competition with extreme specificity. Again, we covered this in my lessons. So this is point 9 in chapter 3. So do give it a read. 2 reasons on why you should be reading this book. So the reason number 1 is pretty simple, right? So there is a lot of tactics, a lot of psychological cues that are explained in this book, but the best part about it is explained with a why, it's explained with an example, it's illustrated with probably 1 or 2 copies on how the author would approach it. So that's the best part. It's not just about gyan. and you're ending up with nothing. The author actually shows you how you could go and implement them. Second reason on why you should be reading this is, most of the copywriting books that I've written get into very, very specifics of, hey, this is the headline formula, this is the paragraph formula, blah, blah, blah. But this book kind of gives you a framework on how you should be thinking about copywriting and advertising. One particular aspect that I liked about this was, I forgot the name of this. It's called the Flesh Reading Ease formula, right? Flesh Reading Ease formula. I think it's part of all the Microsoft Word and Google Docs. If I'm not wrong, I'll probably check that once. Where they say the more simple your copy is, the more likely it is to sell to more people, right? So write short and choppy copies. Use simple words that stick better with people, and and how you can use this test to kind of validate that, right? So that was one more reason for me to why I feel you should be reading this book, because it gives you frameworks on how to think about copywriting and marketing. And the one big lesson that you're going to be learning from this book is viewing your advertising as a salesperson. The only difference being advertising is one-to-many, whereas a salesperson is just one-to-one. So I hope you enjoyed my review of Cashvertising on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. If you feel like you want to read this book, I've dropped in a link below. And if you want me to review any other book, please drop in your suggestions. I'll probably pick that book up and review it in the same format. And please do subscribe to my newsletter and this YouTube channel. It will mean the world to me. Thank you.